philosophy and the heart of what this is all about, this is perfect. I'm going to go deep dive right into instruction. We are a school for 560 Latino students. About 85% of them are entitled to additional time on testing, meaning that some have passed the NYSIEB lab within the last couple of years, but most of them are transitioning still, and I don't even like using that word, but they're working on both languages. Because to say they're transitioning to English is actually really a misnomer, because a lot of times we're finding that dictionaries are not sufficient for our students, because they don't know the language in Spanish yet. So they're learning both languages. They have to learn both languages at the same time. And we really are very, very grateful to CUNY NYSIEB for the work that we've done here, and particularly for the visits that we've had, the insights they've given us into what we are already doing instructionally and where we wanted to tweak things going along. And what we really appreciated was when just recently, we've been able to do it earlier, but Ofelia Garcia, Tatiana, and Luis came to school, and it was wonderful because the teachers said, oh yes, we're already doing so much of this, but we thought we had to do it on the down low. You know, although I don't really understand why as the AP, because I kept saying you must have native language instruction, and that's what, if they don't know the native language, it's not going to transfer over to the English. As much as I gave permission, they didn't feel they had permission until they saw the research. Until they saw that there was an authority outside of the school and some backing for it, and there was such a collective sigh of relief. So that will take me now into, I want to just give you this is helping me as a supervisor as well, because I go into the classrooms and now we have language ourselves for the conversations we have around language, which is where I always wanted to be. We've been saying for years, and it is true, but people understand more deeply now, is that every single teacher in the school is a language and literacy teacher, not a content teacher, only and primarily. Because you cannot learn content without language. So, in humanities, I'll give you an example. I went to a US history class recently. The teacher was teaching it in a mix of Spanish and English, primarily in English, but when she saw that students were lost, she would switch over to Spanish. Students answered her questions in either Spanish or English very comfortably, whichever was more comfortable for them. And I'm starting calling it the language of comfort rather than native language or second language or target language. There are languages of comfort that the students use, depending on what they're talking about, what the setting is. So they use their language of comfort. But then what they were given were two primary sources in English from the 1800s about emancipation, proclamation, and should there be abolition or shouldn't there be abolition. Again, it's a very difficult text. There were pairs of students in rows, in lines, were given different texts. And what the teacher said, which I thought was fascinating, and this is going too quickly, because I have this for every single one of the content areas. I could go into this kind of detail, but I thought I would take the deep dive approach because then you really get it. All right, so there were these rows of students, and each one was in a pair, and they had this very dense text, and they were given it in English and in Spanish. And then what they did was they were asked, you're taking R, you're taking A, F, and T. So you're going to look at the role of the writer. You're going to look at the audience, these two students. You're going to look at the format. You're going to look at the tone. You're going to look at the topic. And then we are going to organize it R, A, F, and T, and you're going to put your posters together. And there's going to be a gallery walk, and after that, you're going to flip and read the articles, but you're going to have a little more time to read it on your own now that we've gone through it this way. What was remarkable was I walked around the room, I watched the students, every single one of them was working. Oh, and the setup for it, which was even more beautiful, was, of course you need to know this for the regions, but this is more difficult than the regions. This is really what you need to be able to go to college. So thank you very much for setting high expectations for our students. God bless that teacher. So, sorry, all right. So anyway, They didn't freak out because she set it up to be something very safe. And by the end of the period, these students were really able to say this was persuasive tone, and this was pro or anti-slavery. They were pulling out evidence. They had to give evidence from the text, so this was totally aligned to Common Core, text-based, and it was phenomenal. They all had been able to go through very dense text and feel successful. And it was completely trans-language. And this is a result of, one of the things that we do, as you talked about the structure, was give teachers time and tell them your task is to weave this into your Common Core curriculum. We are looking for language goals, literacy goals in every one of your lessons in addition to your content goals. And what we've seen, just very quickly now, rubrics that include vocabulary development so that you get these 10 points are because you've used the vocabulary you've learned in the classroom. We're looking at our dictionaries and going, okay, now we need some help on that, because the students are going, okay, I'm looking at the English-Spanish dictionary, I don't know what it means in either language. And then the English dictionaries aren't good enough in the Spanish dictionary. We're having some difficulties around dictionaries. This is emerging because of these questions that are coming up. We had a unit that a teacher did on translanguaging, teaching the children how to be their own meta-linguistics, linguists. Well, anyway, there's amazing stuff here. People, I don't want to quickly open the doors up because they get swamped, but there's a lot of wonderful stuff going on, and it's very exciting to see the level of unity and also the high level of intellectual discourse going on in a school that is serving students who ordinarily doubt in this kind of discourse. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today. I wish it weren't kind of the end of something. We could certainly appreciate the support for another semester, because I feel like things are really just getting started in Freeport. Freeport's a school district in western Nassau County on the South Shore. Lots of more sand in Freeport than there was in early October. 7,000 kids come to school in Freeport. About 60% of them speak Spanish at home. New York City statistics, that's not very impressive, but for a suburban school district, that's got more of an urban profile. We've had bilingual programs in our elementary schools for a long, long time. I'm fortunate enough, my name is Sue Greck, I'm the district's director for language programs. I'm representing the principal today who couldn't be here. But it was his interest that gave me a green light a year ago to look at the opportunity that this CUNY NYSIEB initiative brought to Freeport, and it was any one of 3 schools that I could have kind of steered the attention, because you know how it is, district people get to look at these invitations right at the same time the principal does, and it was, do we investigate this for 3 buildings or 1? And I made a decision with the assistant Sue to look at our middle school, our 7th and 8th graders. It was where we found our ELLs. Our emergent bilinguals were struggling the most, 5th through 12th grade, in terms of making consistent, adequate progress. You're all familiar with those terms. But as a district person, I wanted to take it in a direction we hadn't gone so far. As I mentioned, we had a bilingual program. We have a 2-way bilingual program. My friends out on the island know that there are not too many bilingual programs in Nassau and Suffolk, and even fewer that are 2 ways, that involve learning Spanish by native English-speaking children and not eradicating Spanish, like Mr. Kelly pointed out, among the children who bring that to school, but it was in our middle and secondary levels where we struggled the most. And at this stage, after 33 years in the field, I was intrigued by CUNY's association. I was intrigued that New York State Ed was finally showing some good sense and asking the experts, where could we go where we haven't tried some things before that make a difference? And it's to me really important that the teacher representing Freeport at our middle school today with me, Jackie Benjamin, is a teacher on special assignment. That's what's the title we came up with in Freeport. And this is the special assignment is to improve English language arts instruction. And Jacqueline stands for the kind of teacher I wanted to interest in translanguaging. I have, in this particular school with about 78, 80 teachers, there are 4 bilingual ESL teachers. They're ESL teachers, but all bilingual. It's almost a prerequisite for us to find ESL teachers who speak Spanish, although one doesn't, but welcomes the presence of Spanish, because that's the major other language in our school, just like yours. 2 Spanish teachers who are bilingual and bicultural, who always set wonderful expectations in their native language arts course, but there was a whole other school. Our middle school has nearly 1,000 kids. 110 are classified by NYSIEB standards as emergent bilinguals, and that's where the translanguaging efforts, even though we didn't call it that, were happening. That's where the use of Spanish and English by the teachers and the kids was producing results for us, but not in the whole rest of the school. If you walked into our school when those students were in it, you would see the culture, the language, the music, the sound, the look, the feel of another culture and another language in our district. But walk into 90% of the classrooms and walk around our school building, you would see little to no evidence that Spanish was spoken here. So I know I have 3 minutes and I want Jack Benjamin to talk, but in terms of structures, it led us to invite an open invitation to general educators. I kind of wanted them more than the bilingual and ESL teachers. And 18 teachers a year ago said, sounds good to me. I want to know more. It's led to formalized PD with Liza and Christina, who lead you to believe that you could do things you didn't think you were ready to do. I see she had that effect on others. We have a leadership team that is composed mostly of general educators, a teacher on special assignment, the school librarian, a couple of the untitled leaders in the building, you know who they are, the teachers that other teachers look at and say if they think it has some merit, maybe it does. We added a whole level of a Spanish course that didn't exist. Too many of our native Spanish speakers were sitting in courses that were, Spanish 1, Spanish for the non-native speaker. And it made my ears turn red that much time would be wasted every school year, that kids who had more facility with the language would sit in this kind of course. So in terms of structures and pedagogy, I'll be quick. We quadrupled the size of the Spanish language resources in our school's library. We added classroom libraries to about 16 classrooms where they didn't even have a bilingual dictionary in the room. We've got a group of teachers now who've been through 2 formal PDs that are trying things in there. Even though I only have 1 minute, I'm giving her 3, okay? So can I extend this program by Ophelia, may I? I got the okay. All right, I got the okay. So without racing through my last few minutes, from a district person looking in, seeing that this initiative included a leadership development seminar, and I went for, not the choir in that school, but the chorus, the bigger group, the teachers, across all different disciplines, art, special ed, social studies, math, science, bringing in lesson plans, looking for opportunities to tap into Spanish, even though when the first obvious question was, I don't speak Spanish, how do I do that? So let me give you a teacher's perspective now. She can tell you better how kids are reacting and how teachers are reacting, even when the administrators turn their backs. Jack.
Basically, I feel really, I think this is a really cool opportunity.
This one definitely. Go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me now? All right. I think it's a great opportunity that I got to be involved in this. I think, really, when I had Spanish-speaking students come into my classroom, I would always say, no habla español, no clase de inglés. And that's how I always thought it was supposed to be. Being an English teacher, and they have to learn English, that's it. So this idea is brilliant and it makes sense. And I think the kids are welcoming it. The teachers are fearful. We're fearful at first because what if somebody walks into my classroom and I'm allowing them to speak Spanish and, oh my God, and